Fighters have a way of telling you everything you need to know about them, and then sometimes they try to remain guarded so that they can be deceptive and you don't know everything about them. And in the case of one Edgar Berlanga, all it took was the opportunity to face Canelo Alvarez to see what his true motives were. But I had identified what his motives were far before the Canelo opportunity. And speaking of opportunity, that very well may be exactly what it comes down to for Berlanga. Opportunity. Let's talk about this a little further. Talking about opportunity. And there are fighters that you can always count on. They'll show you who they are and what they are about. Such is the case of one Edgar Berlanga, who had an opportunity against Canelo Alvarez. At 168 pounds, the undisputed super middleweight title holder, Canelo, who picks his opponents like you go to the market and pick your fruit. Berlanga was allegedly lined up for this opportunity way before it was announced to the public. And he has behaved like that, like someone of privilege and someone who's had care taken in his best interest. However, it should be said and noted that that's not the way for everyone who competes at super middleweight. There are tons of fighters out there whom Canelo should have faced already but never faced, and yet still others who are hopeful for opportunity. One in particular from Germany, William Skull, will finally get an opportunity this early spring against Canelo. But when you look at the likes of Jaime Munguia and Caleb Plant and fighters like Callum Smith, who have been in there with Canelo but not the real strong fighters who were competing at super middleweight. Like at one time there was David Benavidez or David Morrell, who have since moved up to light heavyweight and have faced one another at the new weight class for them. Berlanga has been a pretender. I'm just going to be very straightforward with that. His record now is 23-1 with 18 KOs. That single loss coming by way of Canelo Alvarez in September of 2024, where he found himself down in the third round after posturing and taking pictures instead of imposing himself. You know, Canelo once remarked about Benavidez being a guy who brings nothing to a fight with him but an additional 20 pounds. Well, amazingly, on the night that he faced Saul, Berlanga into the ring at 200 pounds himself. You see, all that talk that he did at the press conference and everything, yeah, now you can say in hindsight, oh, we were selling the fight. But when are these fighters going to be about the business, the true business of showing where they want to be in the sport? According to an article in Boxing News 24, the link will be in the description box. James_the_grad is writing that Berlanga is skipping out on Plant, targets Munguia, and banks on Riyadh season. In other words, he's chasing the bag. Yes, he was signed by Matchroom, who did well by him, and he has become a millionaire as a result of the positions that they placed him in, the opportunities granted with fights and paydays that have made things quite lucrative for him. His comeback fight on March 15th of 2025 against Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz showed exactly where he is as far as remaining competitive at the top of the sport. See, you know, he's entered a certain income bracket now, but it's not about the quality of opposition. It's about scoring the paydays. That Ortiz fight was laughable. He stopped him in the first round. Ortiz, even when he got on the scale for the weigh-in, did not look like a fighter that should be getting in the ring with Edgar Berlanga. And from what I understand, there were other names that were tossed his way, and he declined. You see, when you're trying to be the best, steel sharpens steel. You have to stand tall and be amongst the people who will motivate you and inspire you, make you become a driven force. You see, I go back to his fight in October of 2021 against Marcelo Caceres when he went down in the 9th round. You know, Berlanga has been known to bite opponents in the ring. He has never really shown us a mentality toward being a thinking man's boxer with the ability to not only stop you with power, but outthink you and outfight you, outbox you in the ring. And now that he's become, you know, a little bit enlightened as far as the pocketbook, as the author of this article wrote, it may be no coming back from that now. It says, Edgar Berlanga is targeting a fight against Jaime Munguia later this year if the Mexican fighter wins his rematch with Bruno Sarashi on the undercard of Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull on May 3rd in Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia. Choosing the recently knocked out Munguia as his desired opponent rather than Caleb Plant is going to make Berlanga look bad. Boxing fans already view Berlanga as having ducked Plant but this will further cement that view if he chooses to face Munguia. There's no gain for Edgar fighting Munguia because he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, and he's likely to lose his rematch against Sirachi on May 3rd. Fans were looking forward to Berlanga's fight with Plant when he mentioned his name after his last fight against Ortiz. Berlanga feels that Munguia, 28, is his best option because it would attract interest from Mexican and Puerto Rican fans. He thinks that win over Munguia will get him a rematch with unified super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. The former super middleweight world title challenger Berlanga told The Ring magazine that he views Munguia, who's 44-2 with 35 KOs, as the guy he wants rather than Caleb Plant or Jamal Charlo. Interesting. The rest of the article you can find. Link will be in the description box as I've stated. But Caleb Plant is more of a fast track to respectability than anything. And if you really wanted respectability, there's a couple of other names out there. Oslis Iglesias, who's also from Germany, and Diego Pacheco. You see, those fighters are prominent fighters. They're undefeated fighters. They're right there where Berlanga is, give or take a few bouts on their records. But it's a test toward the best, something that Berlanga is not interested in. I do not like these guys who are pretenders, and they will rob the bank blind if you allow them to do so. You see, he's got people fooled about the fact that he wants the best and the opportunities to get in and measure himself as such. But he's far from that, and I want you all to be able to see it as well. Berlanga is a pretender, and now that his pockets have been padded, that's all he's concerned with. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about this commentary and what do you think is really going on with Edgar Berlanga. Do you really want to see him? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.